Talk. Talk. Talk to me Tuesday.
Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Madi B. And today we have a very, very special show. But before we get and release who our special guest is, I know a lot of you guys are coming on the show today to kind of see if you're the winner of today's heroic behavior. No need to worry. I do have the prize here, so we will do that here in a little bit after such a special show. So I would like to welcome our guest. Our guest is David Hancock, Executive Director for Heroes for Children. So welcome, David.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here and honored to be a guest on such a great show with you.
Yes, we're honored to have you as well. So I want to go ahead and open up those lines of communication for those that are watching. If you guys have any comments or questions for David. But before we get that started, David, you are the Executive Director for Heroes for Children. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to uncover a little bit more the organization.
Yeah, a little bit about myself. I come from, historically, I come from a nonprofit background, working as CEO and Executive Director at a variety of organizations for the past 25 years, primarily with nonprofits that really have a very altruistic mission, such as Heroes for Children, really making an impact on people's lives. And so as the CEO Executive Director for Heroes for Children, our mission is that altruistic and really leads to really your question, what is Heroes for Children? And our organization is a Texas-based organization that meets the needs of families. Just imagine this for a moment, having a child and let's say they're 5 years old and beginning to experience some sickness and you don't know what it is, and you go through a series of tests and you hear really probably the most difficult thing I think a parent could ever hear, and that is your child has cancer. And so what Heroes for Children, what we do is we advocate for families who have a child battling cancer. During their treatment process, they experience all kinds of financial difficulties, whether that's their rent, utilities, maybe losing a job because they're having to be so present for their child during the cancer treatment. So we do anywhere between age of birth all the way to 22 years old is how we identify a child. And if they are diagnosed with cancer, then we step in the gap, really become a hero to them and their family by providing them financial and social assistance to help them meet their needs during their treatment. And so that is what we do. In fact, our motto and our vision is this, that no family who has a child battling cancer will fight that battle alone. And really that's where we come into play. And it's such a passionate, heart-rendering mission that everybody I talk to, they go, wow, what can I do to help? And I know we'll talk more about that later, but that's a little bit about Heroes for Children and our mission. And then I have such a great team that I'm able to lead not only our staff, but our board, our donors, our social workers that are in the hospital. And then, of course, really the ultimate heroes are these children who are in the fight of their lives battling cancer. So anyway, that's a little bit of an overview of who I am, what we do, and I know we'll sort of tease that out even further to let the audience know how they can be a part as well.
Yeah, well, David, I'm so thankful to have you on the show. I think this is awesome of what you guys stand for. For those of you guys that are watching and maybe not know, last year, D. Miller and Associates partnered up with Heroes for Children. I think it's beautiful how you just mentioned the real hero right now is the children. the children. You guys are heroes for creating this assistance. We call ourselves the legal heroes, but all these heroes are coming in the forefront for one focus, and that is our children that are battling their journey with cancer. Last year, we had a huge event with you guys, which I'm so proud to say we raised $7,700 for our children. So we are continuing this partnership this year. We're very proud. I know COVID kind of did a little bit of a weird turn for us in regards to our plans on how we're gonna, do those parties and stuff like that for our kids. But I love everything you guys stand for, and we love giving back to our community. We give back from children to women to men, and this is our charity of choice, Heroes for Children, to give back to our children, but also our children battling cancer. So I love how you really uncovered, David, what is Heroes for Children and your mission, which I love that passion that you guys have. So tell us a little bit about your role and duties for Heroes for Children.
Yeah, when I tell people I'm the CEO, Executive Director for Heroes for Children, really, I'm really at the tip of the spear. I have all the responsibility of making sure directing our strategic initiatives, our vision, our sustainability. And it's an incredible responsibility because, I know that those families are real people and their needs, I tell people all the time that cancer never gives them a day off, ever. And it's no respecter of persons. And just let me share with you just a couple stories that I think for our audience here, really, it has sort of helped them understand really how heroes and people like your audience, when they get involved, really what they're impacting. And here's the first story. In Texas right now, here in the Fort Worth area, we have this small little boy who's in the ICU unit, and he's only 6 months old. Aww. And he was diagnosed just right at the beginning of the COVID-19 really exploding on the scene here in the United States. And this wonderful couple, both of them work, have 2 other children. They have their 3rd child and begin to notice some things didn't seem right. So they went and checked out their infant little boy, and he was diagnosed with cancer. And so he's in the fight of his life as a 6-month-old little boy in the ICU. And right about a month after the diagnosis, as the hospital began to treat this little boy, the mother, who was also working full-time, got furloughed and laid off from her job. So they went from this dual income to a single income, and then the father tried to make ends meet, was trying to go out and get extra jobs. And so you want to talk about financial pressure, isolation. We've all experienced that to some degree, but really put that as an exponential factor times 20. And that's really what a lot of these families go through, because for the sake of their child, they need to be isolated so they're not bringing in additional germs and so on that could compromise their little boy's life. And so they stay very isolated. Then the financial pressures, even regardless of insurance or not, are just tremendous. Right. And so that family right there, we talk about all the time. That I think that's a great, example, and that's a current example of a family who anybody that gives to Heroes for Children is impacting directly to be able to help them really pay their bills, really get in the gap and say, hey, we're not going to help. We're going to help you fight this battle, and you're not going to do it alone. And so that's the first story. And then the second story is this, that just happened. I just signed the check just several weeks ago. We had one of our heroes family, a young teenage girl, in fact, right down from the Houston area, who was battling cancer. We were able to help that family with certain financial expenses and help them not fight that battle alone. And the wonderful news was she was able to have some remission. But then many months later, they began to see that really the remission, so to speak, was not working. The cancer came back very aggressively, very quick. And within several months, she lost that battle with her sarcoma cancer, and she passed. And just 2 weeks ago, I was able to sign the check and to be able to provide financial assistance to their family to help offset some of the funeral expenses. And so, though that's a really hard reality sometimes, what I'm really proud with all of our partners and our entire organization is we not only help those during the treatment, we got so many successful stories, but the reality is sometimes a child loses that battle, and we want to also help them in probably the deepest and most painful time of their lives. And so anybody that gives to Heroes for Children, we're just one of several organizations, nonprofit, nationally, who provide financial assistance for funeral expenses. So I share those two stories. I think that probably helps you in your audience just really understand. I'm sort of like the symphony conductor, getting on programs like this, very passionate about our mission, because I know it's helping real families in the greatest time of need, probably the most painful of their lives. And to really orchestrate all that, from individual donors to corporate sponsors, to marketing and advertising, just to let people know, because I've never met a person yet that when they really find out what we do, I've never met one that goes, oh, okay, that's great. Most of the time they're just going, man, what can I do to help? So really I help organize the initiative, the vision, and really lead all those teams so that those families, we can give them a fighting chance in their difficulty in their cancer treatment to be able to beat childhood cancer.
Yeah, and you know what, David, I do agree with you. I know when we first met almost a year and a half ago, I think that is exactly the feeling that this law firm got is, wow, it's very impactful, and what can we do to make a difference? We do have a live comment. This one's from Kim Case. She is saying, happy to learn about this organization. So we're definitely going to let you know more information. And I kind of want to uncover some of those details here in a little bit of what you are speaking about, so that way those that are watching right now that just want to help can help. And that's exactly in the same position that we were in almost a year and a half ago. And so it's very rewarding to hear that you can hear or help them in their battle or their journey through cancer, whether it's the beginning stages, whether it's the middle, or unfortunately, whether it's at the end. And so I think that's very, very important. So tell us where in the U.S. is Heroes for Children present for those that are watching, because our viewers are nationwide.
Yeah, it's a great question. We're a Texas-based organization. Our headquarters are in Dallas. We have offices in the Dallas area and also in Houston. We have big presence in Dallas and Houston, of course, and Austin. But we're all over the state of Texas. We also have a desire, as we continue to grow the organization, to continue our expansion into the rest of the United States. But as you and I were talking earlier, we're sort of in a unique position, Texas being the second largest state population-wise in the country, and have some of the greatest hospitals, for example, like in MD Anderson there in Houston, who we have people that are working in that hospital, some of the best pediatric oncologists who sit on our board and so on. What happens, and just to help everyone understand how this works, we do a lot of our qualification through the social workers in the hospital systems here in Texas. So though many of those patients, those children and those families are going to be from Texas, we have a number that come to MD Anderson from other states. And so as the social worker gets to know the family, working with them on the emotional needs, their physical needs, their financial needs, anything to help that family during their cancer treatment with their child, then what happens is that social worker contacts us. We got a great partnership with the social workers, and that's really the conduit to say we have a family here who needs help with their rent, their utilities, maybe their prescription medications, They need help with hospital parking, maybe just a variety of needs that we usually work with them for. So to answer your question more specifically, though we're Texas-based, we want to expand even further into a lot of different states and grow that expansion U.S. But at the same time, we really have a touch with other families who come to any of the Texas hospital systems and some of the best cancer treatments. And for example, like I said, mentioned MD Anderson as an example. So we really touch a lot of people. It's primarily in Texas, but we touch people who come to any of those hospitals. And that's how we get to know them, is through the partnership with the social worker at that local hospital.
That's awesome. And so you did mention, I mean, I know we are based out of Houston, you're based out of Dallas. There are some amazing hospitals and cancer hospitals as well in these two main hubs. So for someone that's watching that's maybe in need, tell us a little bit about that process. So you just kind of mentioned it's through the social worker. So does a family speak to the social worker directly? Then they get with you? Like, tell us a little bit about that process for someone that is watching and wants to apply.
Yeah, so what we did early on is, and I've been in nonprofit work for a lot of years, and you really got to develop a good process and qualification system for that. What we feel very protective of all the dollars that come in to Heroes for Children, because we know people are giving because they really want to meet the needs. So we really built some self-protections in that process so that we don't have, let's say, someone who has nefarious motives and are just trying to scam the system and receive money. So what it's done by going through the social workers, it automatically provides a level of qualification that's really unparalleled, because that social worker's working directly with them in the hospital. They know the needs of not only that child, they know the needs of the family. They get to know them so well. And so it becomes a great conduit and almost gives us, if I could say it this way, 100% protection and the best qualification, because we know that every application we get to receive any kind of financial assistance or social assistance of any kind, that we've got a legitimate person who is in incredible amount of need, and the social worker has sat down with them, really walking through that. So it becomes really our first line of defense to, one, make sure our monies are financially stewarded in such a way to really go directly to those families. So we're really proud of that. There are some times we have people come in, through our website or a phone call, but that takes a lot more qualification, because we have to ask them who you're associated with, what hospital, how long is your treatment. So really about 99% of all that we do is through the hospital systems and social workers, and it really provides us probably the most information and a confidence level to know that we are really meeting those needs. And so I think that's always important. And I think from a donor perspective, anyone that gives, I think it's not only a fair question, it's a legitimate question to go, Absolutely. Hey, I want to know, if I give, what kind of mechanisms are in place, what's the process. I want to make sure when I give my hard-earned money to really help someone, that it's really going to them. And just knowing how we front end that process really gives a lot of people incredible amount of confidence to go, okay, boy, legitimately how they qualify that, we know that they're meeting those real needs. So it just makes a huge difference, and it helps us to really run well and fulfill that mission so passionately.
Yeah, no, I love that, because that gives peace of mind for those that are donating, especially financially, where exactly those funds are going. So I love that, to hear that there is a quality control almost on y'all's behalf and on the social worker side in the hospital. So that's definitely great to hear. So you did mention a little bit earlier, David, ways in which you guys help families. You mentioned funeral costs. You mentioned rent. Tell us and uncover those ways, and I'm pretty sure it's endless, on how you help the families and also the children, that even when they're in school and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. let me give you a typical scenario. I think that happens, when the social worker sits down with that family and they begin to ask yours for children, our help and, let's say, financial assistance. The ways typically it happens is it could be rent, it could be utilities, it could be prescription medications. A lot of people forget about that, but even with insurance, some of these prescription medications are incredibly high. And so to be able to offset some of those costs it is just a huge, huge challenge. We also, though we don't always mention it, the social workers we talk about with our older kids, we also provide some financial assistance, for example, for freezing of the eggs for a female. Let's say they're in the teenage, let's say they're, as an example, they're 17 years old and they come down with cancer. Really their life is ahead of them, so to speak, if they're able to beat this cancer and go into remission. But going through the chemo and radiation is probably going to really eliminate their opportunities to have a biological child without some kind of interference proactively. So from the female side, we'll do some embryo freezing, and we help provide for that. Also, I wrote a check just yesterday for some sperm banking. So if we have, just to give another age, let's say we have a young man, 16, 17 years old, the kids are not thinking about that. They're just thinking about their battle with cancer. But that in and of itself can also be an incredible assistance to them. Here's a great example. We did this for one of our females who just a number of years ago was fighting this sarcoma cancer in high school. And she was able, through a long treatment process and lots of difficulty, very grueling, but at the end, she was able to beat her sarcoma cancer and came out on the other side, has now been in remission for a number of years, was able to graduate from Texas A&M University, is now married, and now they're planning their first child. So just awesome. To give you, just that story is just like a wow, because sometimes we don't think about that. Right. But I mention that because that's a service that we do for families as well on some of the financial assistance. So those are some of the typical needs. And as I mentioned too, funerals, as difficult as it is, when I call those families and let them know and provide our condolences and that our thoughts and prayers are with them and we have a check on the way to help them in their deepest time of grief, though it's difficult for me to do it, I'll be honest with you, I'm a human being and the pain is sometimes palatable. Yeah. Talking with someone last week, the father, one of the children, him and his family that we've supported here at Heroes, and they lost that battle and they buried him the Monday before on Memorial Day. And the little boy was 5 years old, and it was just gut-wrenching. But as I was talking to the father, he had, just tears. And I had tears in my eyes. But just to be able to say, hey, on behalf of all the donors who have given, we're able to provide you financial assistance for the funerals. So those are, I'm starting to get emotional even talking about it, but that gives you some, I think, just sort of a broad swath of a lot of things we do on the financial assistance side to help those families.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome that you guys stand for that. And just the reality of it, David, when I went to go volunteer, that we were, as a firm, went to go volunteer, I saw infants from babies that are battling, just like you mentioned earlier. And then I got the pleasure of meeting an 18-year-old too that was in the hospital. So I just mentioned a huge range right there from infant to 18. Is that the age range in which you stay on helping families with the kiddos and the children that are fighting their battle?
Yeah, it's really that's the typical range because you're not percentage-wise, you're not going to have as many from birth for the first couple of years, but really from birth all the way up to 22 years of age is what we consider a children in the Heroes for Children world, and that's where we provide the financial assistance to really help those families. So anywhere in that range, and as I mentioned, once they enter puberty and really that young adulthood of teenager all the way up to 22, that's why I mentioned that sperm banking and also the egg embryo freezing as well, to be able to provide some additional services that we wouldn't provide for obviously a younger child.
Right.
So we really it's a soup to nuts all the way through any kind of assistance we can provide for them.
Right. And now I know we're talking about the financial need, and if you make a donation now, I don't know if maybe you guys have this or an estimate, but how much of the donation is needed to be collected to change and help a family? Now, if someone is watching right now and says, I want to help 100 families, do you have an amount or an estimate of what that looks like monetary wise for each family?
Yeah, I can give you some averages that we have historically tracked. Mm-hmm. So typically what we do, because we try to spread out and help so many families, we don't necessarily, sometimes the needs can be just tremendous amounts. So typically we have an internal guideline that I don't mind sharing at all, but typically we share this with the social workers, they share it with the family. Any basic financial assistance each time, and we will sometimes do multiple rounds of financial assistance, but each financial round assistance, we usually cap out around $800 per allocation to a family.
Okay.
Now, some families may say, we only need right now, if you could just help us with $500, let's say for rent or for this utility bill, then we'll do that because it's under our threshold of 800. So I say both of those because our historical average then, well, let me say this, then our funerals, we usually will go up, we usually give $1,000 for that. So that's a higher, it has more costs associated with it, it's more immediate, and obviously it's the most difficult challenge as well. So when you average the funeral at $1,000 and then a cap on the other non-funeral expenses that we do at $800, it turns out to be an average, depending on what the family needs. We average $625 per allocation to a family. Wow. So that's a good baseline to think about. Right. So if someone says, hey, if I gave $625 today, you could probably equate that on an average that you got to help one family really bridge that gap. Now, with that said, someone says, well, I don't have $625. Well, here's the great news. I tell people this all the time. Hey, $10, $20, when you add up an army of heroes coming to the rescue, and I tell people that's what heroes do. They see someone in need and they come to that rescue. That when we've got multiple people giving $20 here, $50 here, $10 there, it adds up really, really quick. And to be able to meet that average of $625 per allocation. And then many of these families, as I mentioned, the one that we just wrote the check for a couple weeks ago for the funeral, we were able to help them on several occasions during their process of their cancer treatment. And then obviously, sadly, the little boy lost that battle, and then we were able to provide family assistance. So sometimes families receive one allocation. They just need that small little gap to help them make it. Right. And sometimes they need help multiple times. So, but I think the 625 average is a great one to know that, boy, every time we got $625, we're able to help an entire family meet a great need in their life.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is great to kind of put it in on an average, because if there's viewers right now that it's in your heart to help, $20 for some may not hurt in a month. Even if it's less than that, just any monetary amount goes a long way. And like you said, David, if heroes join forces to help other heroes, and I love that. I'm actually going to take that quote. So we do have a live comment from Chriselle saying, God bless this organization and its labor of love. Looking forward to learning how we can help. So we definitely want to uncover that. But before we do, I know right now this nation has experienced COVID-19 and has affected, helped, and changed many people, many. And many are even saving right now. So how has COVID affected your organization, these kiddos, that if they're exposed, this could be detrimental to them? Tell us a little bit about your experience with that.
Well, I just quickly sort of laugh because it's such a big question. You say a little bit, I could probably take the rest of the program on that. But let me give you an outline of how it's affected us. And it has. It's greatly affected our organization because it's real people, just like our audience today. There are people in the audience who maybe have had to take a reduction in pay temporarily and still have a job. Maybe their spouse or significant other or boyfriend and girlfriend, maybe they've had to take a cut in pay. Maybe there's a furlough, or maybe they lost their job altogether. Maybe they've experienced COVID-19 and been able to see some of their own impact on their lives. So all those people I just mentioned, just like our audience, those are the kind of people that are giving to Heroes for Children. So when you have all those people, from individual donors to corporate sponsorships to our fundraiser events, just to name those three buckets, it's greatly impacted us. So our individual donors, we've had a downturn there. Where some people, let's say if they were giving $50 a month, might have reduced that in half to $25 a month. Or maybe they said, hey, I was given monthly at $20 and I'm going to temporarily suspend. And when I get my job back, I'm going to continue that. That's been a reality. Also a reality, even with corporate sponsorships and those that give corporately, whether it's a firm, a corporation, whatever it may be, they've had some economic impact. And so in some ways it dominoes all the way down to us, though everyone's heart is, especially in Texas, people's hearts are so big here and the generosity is amazing, but that's just a reality. It's really impacted. And then the third bucket that's really impacted us is we have two major times where we have fundraiser events. One of the big times is in the spring, typically in April. We have what's called our Heroes for Handbags fundraising event in Houston and also in Dallas, just to name two of our many fundraisers. Well, the ones in April, those two events had to be postponed till the end of September. Well, where that impacted us is to realize those dollars, we depend on those annual spring fundraisers to really fill up our budget so that we can provide allocations to families. Right. So though that we're going to be able to realize those fundraiser events in September, we lost that donation revenue really for between now and all the way to September. So the question as the CEO executive director for the organization is, how do we backfill that and still meet the needs from the fundraiser events, even when the individual donations are down and corporate sponsorship, their monies are down? So imagine putting yourself in my shoes. Right. Incredible challenge, because cancer doesn't give any of these families a break. And let me say this as well. In every year, statistically speaking, in the state of Texas, just to stay with Texas right now, 1,800 families a year, which averages almost 5 families a day, receive that horrible news that your child has cancer. So though individual donors are down, corporate donor sponsorships are down, and our fundraiser events had to get postponed, it's really put a challenge to us because the need is still just as great as it was, but we're trying to do it with less dollars. So this is why I love being on shows like yours, because I know the people that are listening, are people of generosity. They're people of action. Go, hey, how can I help? What can I do? And that's why I'm on shows like this, to just really communicate information. And just like your question, how's it impacted us? Well, it's greatly impacted us. And so we've had to reduce some of our allocation where we have historically been. We are still giving to families on a monthly basis, but we've been able to, over a 30% downturn. And so that 30% means we're serving less families than what we were doing. And in the ideal world, I'd love to get back to those historical levels as soon as possible, because there are real families out there that are really struggling. I was just talking with one via text a minute ago. They're sitting in a Dallas hospital right now, waiting on the pathology reports of a diagnosis, and so of potential bone cancer. So it's real. It's happening every day, and so it's affected us greatly. The good news is people are so generous, and I know as soon as they hear this, they're like, okay, what can I do to help? Maybe they haven't given to the organization, or maybe wasn't even aware of the organization.
Right.
And I know people will say, hey, I want to do what I can to help, because maybe they're in a blessed situation. They haven't lost their job, or maybe they go, you know what, I'm going to forgo a couple lattes at Starbucks and see what I can do to be a part of the solution.
Yes, that's a good way to put it, to give up some of the commodities that we have to help someone else that's in need. We do have another comment. This is from Yvette, is saying, we love how D. Miller and Associates are always there for our community, and for sure we stand together with our fellow Heroes for Children. So David, I know you mentioned that some events have gotten canceled, and we are one of those as well, that we have a huge event, a kickoff party with you guys, with a family that's also battling their journey right now, cancer, in May. And so we had to cancel that as well and postpone the date, just because of the risk of putting people in a party environment and more than 20 people. So speaking of that, are you guys still planning on having events to raise money for our children at a later time? I know we are, and I know what's going to be tough for you to answer is we just don't know when right now.
Right. Well, you're exactly right. My staff and I were talking about that the other day. We already have dates that we put on the calendar on now spring events, the Heroes for Handbags for Houston and Dallas, as an example. We moved to September. Other events that we already had in the fall, we've moved back a little bit. We're confident and hopeful. We're planning right now like 100%, got our sleeves rolled up and going, hey, this is going to happen. At the same time, we're planning that direction. We also know the reality that, what if there's, all the unknowns? Could there be a second wave? What if there is some kind of outbreak somewhere and a governor or a city council official says, hey, we're locking down only, events, any large gatherings, no more than 50. And if we typically, like we had 350 at one of those spring events last year, well, obviously that would change the trajectory of everything and how we plan for that. The good news is a lot of our events, we haven't canceled any, we've just postponed them to different dates that we're hopefully gives us a better window to make sure that those events can be pulled off. I think, part of, like you said, there's a lot of unknowns for everyone. We're going to go full steam ahead, but we also are building in contingencies and working with, for example, in Houston, we were working with Post Oak, who we're going to do the event through at that location, and working with them on security measures and safety guidelines. What would that event look like with so many people? So the good news is everyone's very well aware. We want to make sure when we do have those events, that we've got the safety protocols and guidelines and social distancing all built into our plan so that people can feel very confident participating in the events, knowing it's going for a good cause with these children and their families. At the same time, planning additional, those are additional things that we're not normally used to. So all those things are really going into our planning process for some of our major fundraiser events that we do here.
Yeah, I know that's important. Now we have to almost either plan or think way outside the box of how we normally do things. So I think that's huge. We are going to have an event, and I kind of just want to speak a little bit of last year's event that we actually had here at the law firm. It was so rewarding. We actually had a survivor, a little boy who was 2 years old, who was a survivor. And let's just talk about these patients that have all the life in the world in them. It was so beautiful because there was this little boy just running around like crazy, and he was the survivor, had more energy than you and I both right now. And so those are things that, I want us all to reflect, and things that we take for granted. Those kids that are fighting their battle through cancer right now have the best and the most positive light around them. You guys kind of see pictures on our screen right now of families, of other kids, other people coming together to help little lives like the 2-year-old, the 17-year-old, and really be a light to them. And on the contrary, we've also been to Halloween. You guys had a great event at the hospital. We've also seen children that have been in their really tough times, and they're really just down and out. And just to see a smile just really gives them that little fire in their candle or in their heart to give a smile back. So this organization is amazing. It's rewarding on the things that we do for our kids. And so I think these events are important. If we maybe can't have any more events for the year, we have to think of a way that we could do things either staying at home, electronically, because there are some people that also need help out there. So I know there may be people, David, that are watching right now that are saying, I want to donate, I want to volunteer. And the volunteer, there's a lot of unknowns right now. But what do they do, and what's the best way that they can reach out to you guys to do that, donate or volunteer?
Well, that's the question I love answering the most, because that really provides that kind of opportunity. Before I answer that, let me say this. I'm so appreciative of the partnership with D. Miller and Associates, and really groups like yours who are so passionate within what they do on a day-to-day basis and give back to the community. And your partnership with us is just, man, it's a dream. And those kind of partnerships we relish, because you really can inspire our team when we have those difficult days dealing with some very difficult situations with families. Right. It really keeps us going. So I thank you so much for that partnership. It's just tremendous.
Yes, it is our pleasure on behalf of D. Miller. Yes, that's awesome. No, we definitely want to keep partnership with you guys for sure.
Yeah, well, I look forward to many days ahead and strengthening that partnership. Let me answer your original question, and the question is really, how can people get involved, especially with, this ambiguity, this holding pattern of COVID-19. I think the simplest way to really answer that is, it's the easiest way to stay engaged, and that's to go to our website at heroesforchildren.org. That's heroesforchildren.org. And on the website, which we're rebuilding, by the way, just a little plug for those that go to it today and then maybe go to it a month from now.
Yeah.
We're going to roll out July 1st a brand new website that will be more functional, aesthetically, easier to navigate, more pictures, more stories about our families. Really excited about that. But you can go to heroesforchildren.org. And I think the best way, because we don't know, certain events and if things got to be postponed, but to really realize those dollars now that can meet the needs of these families now, that's to go to the website at heroesforchildren.org. You'll see a donate button, and you can give whatever that you feel that you could do. You can do that as a one-time gift, which we're incredibly appreciative of, because like I said, all that goes in to the budget to really be able to identify, and these applications come in literally daily. So we have those needs coming to us at all times.
Yeah.
And then every Friday, we're sending those financial assistance checks out and meeting those needs in real time. So you can do that through the website, and you can give a one-time gift. But let me say this. I'm always encouraging people to consider a monthly gift option. Someone says, well, hey, I can give $50 one time right now. Well, I would rather you consider maybe thinking about a monthly. Here's why. Cancer never lets these families get a day of rest. And if 5 new families in the state of Texas get that diagnosis that their child has cancer daily, it just never stops. So we always talk about, you might want to consider giving a monthly gift. It could be smaller. You could say, hey, I'm going to give $10 a month or $20 a month,
right.
Whatever you want to do. We don't lead you down any road. You know your situation much better. But I really think about considering and being a monthly partner with us. We also, starting next month, are going to build in a monthly partner newsletter as an example that will go out monthly, that will give you stories that maybe you haven't heard of, maybe some inside information, maybe a video from me updating some different details about the organization. So it really strengthens our partnership more long term. And even if someone gives $10 a month, they're going to be treated like the biggest donor we have,
right.
Because that's really where our greatest partnership lies, is in really that regular, continual partnership on a monthly basis. So yeah, any of the listeners, I think, to help us close that gap before our fundraisers kick back in the fall, and that is to go to heroesforchildren.org and provide either a one-time gift or to join our monthly partnership of that at any level of amount. And we would just be honored if any of your listeners in the audience today would do that. We'd just be thrilled.
Yeah, so I know you guys saw the website up a second ago. It's up right now. And so I kind of want to, David, if we know, D. Miller & Associates, or if any of our viewers know of any families that need assistance, do we contact you through the website as well, or do you go through a different process?
No, you can contact the websites or go to the website, and you can either make a phone call into our main number, or there's info at Heroes for Children. Just put in the title what you are wanting to know about, and we'll make sure that we get someone back with you.
Perfect. And so just for some of the families that may be watching right now, what, and I know it's a little bit different if you're not going through the hospital and you're going directly, but what are the qualifying factors of a family to receive this type of assistance?
Yeah, really, the most major qualifying factor is, and I hate to use it as a qualifying factor, but, their child has to have an official diagnosis with cancer. Mm-hmm. And if they have an official diagnosis from a medical doctor in a hospital system, that's number one. And that now puts them into our queue to go, okay, now let's assess. And then what we usually do is send them an application that will go to them and their social worker, whatever hospital location they're at, and to be able to fill that information out and then get it back to us.
That's awesome. Okay, so that seems pretty user-friendly on their website, and if not, I mean, I'm sure you guys have certain individuals that guide through the process. I know going through a process like this in difficult times, I know it's tough. Everything becomes a little muddled and a little bit blurred just because you're experiencing so much hardship. So we definitely understand, and even if you reach out to us, we can assist and we can definitely help too, and do a warm transfer just to kind of help. And so I know we kind of mentioned on ways that you guys assist the families, David. There's other things that you guys do that I've been such an amazing part of, and this firm has as well. You guys have done something during Valentine's Day for the parents, so that they can spark up again their love, because they're so focused in on the hardship in the situation. You guys are doing mass giveaways. Do you want to recap a little bit about that?
Yeah, boy, I'm so glad you brought this up here at the end of the broadcast. I've talked a lot about the financial assistance, but I've mentioned this social assistance. And so I'll really walk through that very simply. Not only the financial assistance, but we realized early on that these families need social assistance help as well, because they're isolated. And I think everyone has a much better appreciation for that with the COVID-19 pandemic that we've all experienced. Levels of isolation that are irritating, can drive us a little bit crazy, and just put in all the added pressures of having a child with cancer. So what we've done historically, we've done a number of different things. We've done things just for the families. As an example, we've rented out museums before and had nothing but our heroes' children with cancer and their families come together for a very, very special event with different characters and provide an event just for them. And you talk about a blessing, you talk about energy and smiles on their faces, because they've been isolated for so long, and to come together with like-minded and people that have been experiencing the same journey as they have, there's just nothing like it. Another event that we do in our social assistance, the one you mentioned, Valentine's dinner, where we provide a dinner, an event, and help parents get out of the house and get a date night as well. Because they've been so focused on the child, to be able to help them have a little bit of their time and a little bit of reprieve. It's just hard to imagine what kind of blessing that is, because it's nonstop day and night when their child is going through cancer treatment. Other events that we do with children, we've done stuff very much like providing some wishes and help them in some social assistance, maybe fulfill the dream of going to Disney World, or those kinds of things that are really, really special moments, especially if things start to turn more on a terminal nature and they're starting to go down that path. To be able to even help a family have some memories that will last a lifetime through an event like that is really, really amazing. So there's a number of things that we do on the social assistance side. We've done a thing called movie night, where we'll rent out let's say a studio movie grill, theater, and we'll have a particular movie, and we provide the popcorn and the drinks and different things you would experience in a movie, and the kids come in their PJs and their stuffed animals, and it is so heartwarming just to be able to see them finally get out of the hospital and maybe have some sense of normalcy, and the smiles on their faces will literally bring tears to your eyes of joy. And it's amazing. But I always tell everyone, it's not that we're doing that. It's all the donors. Every time you give to our organization, that is what you're doing. You're becoming a hero to these families, really to the greatest heroes that we have, and that's a child in really the fiercest battle of their life.
Yeah, David,
cancer.
I agree with you, and I have a huge smile on my face because we have done such. So we have given goodies for most of these events. Halloween was one of the ones that was so rewarding, but Christmas too. We adopted families, individuals, and we went with gifts. Now, on these pictures that you guys see on the screen right now, we to protect the child and their identity, and getting permissions. It's really just our staff. But behind this picture, it's so many families and kids. So it's not just the child that's going through the journey of cancer, but it's also the brother and the sister that can't just get gifts because money is tight. And so to be somebody, to be there and to help these families just to have a Christmas is so rewarding. So I really commend you guys, David. You guys help in more ways than one, not just financially, but giving them the experience of the parents a date night, the kids a Christmas. And I think that is what just speaks 1,000 words. So yes, and go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just going to say two other things that I just failed to mention, but because I know our time is limited. But you mentioned what we call our Holidays for Heroes, Holiday Heroes program during the Christmas time, where firms like yours, D. Miller and Associates, and other groups and individual donors who help provide presents and gifts for these families during the holiday season, and it's just amazing. And another program that we do on the social assistance side, especially for teenagers, for those that have any economic challenges during this time, sometimes these kids get isolated during their cancer treatment, where they're not able to go to school for months at a time. They're disconnected from friends. So we have another program called Laptops for Love, where we provide them through the donations of people just like your audience, who we provide laptops for them so they can continue when they can continue their schoolwork, to stay connected. That's very important for their emotional health as well. And then also with their friends, especially with the advent of social media, to be able to get on and post on Facebook and talk with their friends via their computer while they're in the hospital is amazing. So those are two other programs we provide on the social assistance side. So as you can see, it has a lot of arms of, when I say financial and social assistance, it has multiple layers of what we do. And it's people like your audience and people that give to Heroes for Children that make it happen. And that's why we say you're really heroes for children.
Thank you so much. And David, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to give you a huge thank you for being a part of this organization, for doing what you do for our kids, which is our future of tomorrow. It starts with people like you, with your team, with these organizations, for us all to come together and make a difference. So I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you so much. It's my privilege, and it's my privilege to partner with you and D. Miller Associates, and the opportunity to be on the show today. So I thank your audience for listening, engaging, and if they can, we would just be honored if they would go to heroesforchildren.org and help these children, help these families who are in great need.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you again, David. And for all you viewers that are watching right now, definitely go to their website. Give them some love, even if it's just engaging or going to their social media. We would love for you guys to send them some love as well. Awesome. So now we're going to kind of switch it up. So D. Miller and Associates PLC loves to give back to the community. As you guys know, we did have a live comment from Javier saying D. Miller rocks. And you know what? When we give back to our community, give back to our clients, our staff, all of that, I agree with you. It's so rewarding. So we do so much to try and get involved in the community and help as much as we can. We do have a group of staff members, employees that are right now in the protest walk here in Houston in honor of George Floyd as well. So for any of you guys that are watching, if you guys have family members or friends, we definitely pray for the safety and for you guys to be, go ahead and stand and have a voice while being peaceful and safe. But along with that, a lot of you guys are giving back to the community. We also do giveaways monthly here on our heroic behavior. The word hero is being thrown out all over today's show, and I love it because hero has such a deep meaning. So our heroic behavior giveaway for this month is up to $75. The minimum is $75 for a utility bill. It could be electricity, it could be your water, it could be your cable. D. Miller just wants to help. During these times right now, they're tough for some people. And some people don't have financial means coming in or can't make ends meet. And that is why we're here, so that we can give this gift to someone who has done 3 easy things, actually 4 easy things. So you actually have to use one finger. You have to click like on our page, this Facebook page. You have to click like on the picture that you see on the screen. You also have to tag someone that's also in need and share it on your timeline. Guys, you have to do all 4 to be able to earn this gift. You must be 18 years or older to also get it. So I think it's time. We're running out of time. So I do have the winner here. And you know what? Let's go ahead and do it as regular. Drum roll, please. Exactly. So our winner for today is J. Don L. Williams. So J. Don L. Williams. Yay! Congratulations. So we will reach out to you and send you a direct message so that way you can claim your prize. If you guys are watching right now and said, oh, I wish I could win, no worries. You have a chance to win too. So on Facebook, we have something called Heroic Behavior. On Instagram, we have something called Tag a Hero. So look for it. They're both super different. You have to be on those platforms, and we give great prizes. Guys, I'm not joking when I say the word great. They're great prizes. We don't just give great prizes, but we also do great things in the community. Make sure you guys follow us on our social media page. Every single one of the pages shows something different. We were just this weekend giving out free masks to hospitals, to our frontliners, to people in the Houston community. We were all over the place, but the goal is to change someone's life, to make a difference, and to change our environment. I think those words are very powerful, especially with what we're dealing with right now. So I want you guys to join me in on making a difference, on making change. But guess what, guys? It starts with you guys. You guys making the difference, and you guys going out there and living a little bit different, peaceful, having a voice. That is what the change is going to derive from. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming on today's show. Most importantly, for sharing the show. The more you share the show, the more we get to educate and help someone out there, whether it's by educational, whether it's by a giveaway, or it could be just by plugging them into the right resource of help. So I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday with your host, Madi B. Until next time.